right, so let's assemble our card. And once again, first step is to trim down this image piece. And like I said, you could have these pre-cut so they're the right size before you stamp, but then you just have to be extra careful when you're doing your stamping. So this takes some of that need for precision out of there. So we've got that ready there. I'm going to glue this to my brown piece, and my brown piece is the width of my card, so it's the perfect width already. So I'm going to center it between the sides and then have about that same amount coming down from the top. Glue it in place. And you may notice my sample card has glitter on it, but I haven't done it for this image. And the reason for that is that glitter is stickles. Oops. I didn't really cut nice and cleanly. That glitter is stickles, and stickles is glitter glue, and it takes a little while for it to dry. So I would have had to wait between the two steps to let it dry for quite a while, and I didn't want to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to assemble my card, and then I'm going to put my stickles on it and let it dry. Which is a great step if you happen to be doing a whole bunch of a different card, and you want to be able to streamline it a little bit, is you can put all your cards together and then you can add all the stickles at once. And then for myself, I typically have to leave the room because when I have wet glue sitting on my desk while I'm working, that's typically the first place that my hand lays or that I put something down. So it's typically safer for me if I leave the room once that's done. So I've got my ribbon down, same as the first two cards. And what I did with this one is I added some little die cut holly as an accent. So I have this little die here. You could use a punch, you could have some pre-cut greenery. And what I'm gonna do so that I know that it matches exactly my card is I'm going to use my Copic markers to color them. So I simply cut it out in white cardstock. It's the same white cardstock that the image on my card is stamped and colored on. So I know that the colors are going to blend. And then I'm doing a little bit of some of the dark green and then color. And typically what I would do if I'm doing a bunch of the same card is I would go and I would color a lot of holly all at one time rather than coloring it for each and every card. That's going to save you a little bit of time as well. We've got our berries there. I dropped my lid. You don't want to leave these markers with the lids off because that is a good way to have a marker dry out. So I'm going to use some collage medium here, put a little blob there. And I'm going to take my little die cuts. I'm rolling them a little bit with my fingers just to give them a little bit of dimension and make it look a little bit more real on the front of the card there. If I were to just glue them in flat, it would just look awfully flat. And I tend to like it when it has a little bit more dimension to it. And then my little berries here, I am going to put them in the middle of that holly there and let them dry. Before they dry though, I can add my red stickles on those berries just to give them a little bit of sparkle. And then I can add the stickles to my card. Now, when we were talking about the Tombow markers, the dye-based markers, I said you don't want to add any liquid glue to those because they're dye-based and the colors will start to run. Now with Copics, you don't need to worry about that because they're alcohol-based. So adding wet glue or stickles or whatever on top of it, it's not going to make your colors start to run. So that is another great thing about the alcohol-based markers is you can add wet glue, you can add glitter, you can add glossy accents, whatnot, right onto your cards after they're colored, and it's not going to make anything run. Your colors are going to stay exactly where they are and not move. So I'm going to add a tiny little bit of glossy accents as well, just right over the center of that lamp there, just to make it nice and shiny. So I'm not going to show you this one that's completely wet because I'll put my finger in stuff, but now you can see right here. So you'll see a tiny little bit of gloss where that little lamp is, and then you can see the glitter on the top of the roofs for all of the snow. And you'll see, and I did this exact same way as well. I did it after it was colored. Nothing ran or got blended in. There you go. Your last card is done.